All right, enactment. Let me tell you about this real quick. Okay. This is asking the family to act out what they're talking about right in front of you. So when they come in and they say, well, you know, on Tuesday night, he did this and she did that, you just kind of stop and you go, oh, okay, thanks so much for that, but you know what, it would really help me if you could just act like it's Tuesday night and show me how this interaction went. And they're like, what? And you're like, yeah. Why don't you have that fight that you had Tuesday night, just have it right here? Okay? The great thing about it is, you, instead of asking all the questions about who said what, who said this, and then what did, and who did that, and what, you get to see it. It just plays right out for you. When I have little kids, I sometimes do this with puppets. And every family member, I've got a big bowl of puppets in my office, every family member gets to grab a puppet, and they get to act out what happened. And they might even act out somebody else's role. I love to make kids mom. And parents kids. That can be an interesting new perspective. It can be a reframe because they have to get into somebody else's shoes just to even carry that out. Enactments are something then that you can facilitate and make happen, but you also watch for them because you know what? Families will act in the session as they do outside the session. So every now and then, I'm going to see Barb and Don start interacting the way Barb and Don do when they're at home. And that's going to be a wonderful enactment for me. I'm going to be able to see exactly what happens between the two of them. Or I might, if there's a kid involved, I might see the kids. Well, I told you about the couple that came in, and the kids were just talking up a storm, and I finally said what happened right before you came in here and found out that the stepdad and mom had had a fight, and the kids were trying to ease the tension. Okay, so that's an enactment. So you want to watch for them, and you also want to facilitate them, and you can do that. I told you about the one I did with the daughter, the mom, and the stepdad. And the mom kept saying, I'm in the middle, I'm in the middle. And I couldn't understand what she meant she was in the middle because it's usually kids that get triangulated. And so they were washing dishes, so I had them set up so the little girl was washing dishes. You remember this? And the mom and dad, the mom and the stepdad were talking about finances. We didn't talk about this? Seems like I just talked about that. But so what happened is, so they reenacted this, had them reenact for me. And so I can understand what happened. So mom and new husband are sitting at the table doing finances, and the wife says, we need to pay this off. We need to pay one of these bills completely off, and so we can, yeah. And the new husband says, no, we've got to pay $10 to each of these 50 people so that everybody gets a little bit. And then you know, so they're arguing about this. Mom throws up her hands right in the middle of this, walks out of the room. They're in a trailer, but they're doing this for me in the therapy room. And the daughter stops washing dishes because they're right behind her, so she's washing dishes this way. Her back is here, and that's so she goes over, sits in her mom's chair, and picks up the argument with the stepdad. Now, I finally understood what the mom meant about I'm in the middle, and yet it wasn't her in the middle at all, was it? It was the daughter, but it was hard for me to figure that out because when they're doing the he said, she said, blah, 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 it's filtered, so that, and so sometimes when they show it to you, it's much better. So enactments are very powerful. Definitely you want to use those. Intensity creation. This is one where you, intensity creation is something that I think Whitaker did in that moment that he joined the dad in talking about tractors and facilitated that catharsis, you know, made that real intense. Intensified the fact that dad was disconnected, okay? One way that I like to use this is to tell, when I have really worked hard to help them try to understand something systemic, and like, so maybe mom went home and said, you know, instead of instead of my husband and I getting involved in our son's arguments, because parents will talk a lot about their kids arguing, and then they have to be like refugees, no.
Referees.
Thank you, referees. And then they get in the middle of it and they just mess it all up. So I have on occasion told families when the two boys get into an argument, put them in the garage and leave them there. And they're like, oh, I can't do that. Oh yeah, you can do that. So the mom tried this, she does this, and she comes back and she says, she said, I noticed when they went out there and they did this, they solved their own problem. Instead of us making it worse, they solved their own problem. I said, what did you say? Excuse me, I'm sorry, I just didn't hear. I must be having some trouble today. Can you say that again? And I might do that 3 or 4 times. Because I want to intensify that boundary, that new discovered thing that she's just found. So instead of saying to her, oh, great, I'm so glad you got the systemic message that I was trying to give you, and that you now understand. Instead, I just say, what did you say? Can you tell me that again? I didn't hear you. I don't know that and that I intensify it, okay? Just as an example.